Today, I want to talk about lupus. Let's talk about lupus. It's late at night, and I just felt like my throat was closing up, and I felt like I just needed to speak. I just need to get this out. I just need to share my story. And a few thoughts came to mind. The first one was, I just want these podcasts to be like a home movie. I don't necessarily feel like I need to get made up or dressed up or find a pretty scene to sit in front of. I miss home movies where they're grainy and not well lit sometimes, and the camera's moving around quickly and there's so much going on, but it's the most authentic thing that I've ever watched and that I've ever been able to witness is watching back at home videos. So these podcasts are going to be like that. I've decided some days I'll be wearing makeup. Some days I'll have, a fit on, or I'll be sitting out at a field because let's be honest, I love doing that. And other days it might look like this. Just me in my room in my pajamas, no makeup on, in the middle of the night. And yeah, that was my first thought. Home videos and the realness and trueness of them. And the second thought was these thoughts moving through my head like I haven't done enough. I know these thoughts aren't mine. And I remind myself every day that I am not my thoughts. They move through me just like clouds move through the sky. And yeah, that was my second thought, was remind myself how far I've come in just the last 2 years. In 2022, I had my first true awakening. And I'm going to rephrase that. In 2022, I had my first conscious awakening. I feel like I've had other versions of that, but I came back into my body for the first time in 2022. I think the last time I felt that connected to my body was probably 5 years old, and I'm 32 now, almost 33. So, yeah, my second thought was, holy shit, you've come so far. What are you talking about? You haven't done enough. In the last 2 years, it's just crazy to think because I've heard other people's stories of consciously awakening and how it takes years to get to a point where their reality shifts in a way where it reflects everything that's going on inside, the magic going on inside. And the frequency of magic is already readily available. Matching that frequency on the inside and outside is a journey, and I'm beginning to enjoy the journey more and more. Um, that isn't to say that some days aren't difficult. And yeah, I have come so far. I've reduced so many of my physical symptoms. It's almost like being around someone every single day, that someone being myself, and like not noticing how much they've physically grown or mentally grown and things like that. So reminding myself and like going back at the version of myself that I was in 2022, it just blows my mind sometimes to think about how radically different I am. Not in a way where I'm ashamed of who I was in 2022 or any versions of myself prior. It just makes me really proud of um who I am now. And I'm still here. And I've become certified in Reiki 1 and 2, and I've become certified as a trauma-informed introspective breathwork therapy facilitator, and I have aspirations and goals. And 2 years ago, before all of this, I was just living day to day, mechanically, monotonously, with no real vision of my future. And it may be going slower than I want it to, but I'm beginning to respect and trust this process more and more. And it just makes me so humble and so grateful and makes me really emotional because I wouldn't change the experience for the world. I know I'm not the only one who has moved through so much trauma that there used to be days where I would wake up and not want to wake up, and have days where I didn't imagine a future because I didn't want one. And I just want to let all y'all out there know that there is so much more, and it starts inside of you. And it just starts with the want to come back to you. When initially I wanted to say make things better, but the thing is the thought that I needed to change who I was um has the meaning of what that is has changed so much. When I used to think about changing who I was, I used to think that there was something innately wrong with me. And now when I talk about changing and evolving, I understand it as just a natural process and not something that's innately wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me and there's nothing wrong with you. We're all born with this pure, magical, innate, divine energy, and the only thing that gets in the way is everything else. And even the process of not blaming that everything else, other people, environments, drugs, addictions, distractions, situations, trauma, even. And that's still a process, Having this balance between not blaming others, taking responsibility for myself, as well as recognizing that it isn't my fault what happened to me. It isn't my fault that the traumatic things that I went through, yeah, they're not my fault. At the same time, I'm now taking responsibility on how it affects me in the present moment, and how much control it has over me, and that I get a choice now. I get a choice now to decide how much of a hold it has on me. And lately, man, I'm not going to tell you it's been easy, because it hasn't been. And I feel like the more I get this story out, is the more I get the ability to take back control. Not in a sense where I feel like it's interesting. There's also, I feel, of course, there's this Libra energy just always present with this balance between knowing that I'm not in control, in a sense where I know that I trust in my divine timeline unfolding. At the same time, I know that the only thing that I can control is how I react and how I respond to things, and how I choose to see through the lens of life. And that lens I choose to be through love. Love through the light, love through the dark. It's not necessarily all love and light. It's love and dark too. It's love and dark. It's a combination of my yin and yang energy. Yin energy is dark energy. Yin energy is feminine energy. And that is coming back into balance for me. And I know it is collectively with many other people as well. And it doesn't have to be this shameful experience to go digging into the earth and all the way into the underworld to go through a cyclical nature of death and rebirth. We were all born from the womb of someone. And we go through that birth multiple times as we live here on earth. And the more we try to control it and keep ourselves from it, the more chaos ensues. I experienced that when I was diagnosed. When I was diagnosed with manic bipolar depression in 2017. And giving it a name really allowed me to have a name for it, and then there came a time where that name became my story and became this crutch. This crutch that every time I felt like I couldn't do something, I fell back on that. Well, it's because I have this. Well, where did that come from? And eventually, after so many years of living out of my body and dissociating and using drugs and alcohol and people to keep me from myself and keep me from the darkest parts of myself, my body caught up with my mind and was like, yo, I know you haven't been here for quite some time, so I'm going to bring you back. And at first it was scary because I hadn't yet consciously come back into my body. My mind awakened to a lot of really dark truths about my reality. And even some of them were still misconstrued, although I did find some truth in it. Some truth in it to the point where I felt like I deserved to know more about my environment, how I was living, the world I was living in. Now, the reason why the first veil that dropped for me was in such a dark place was because the lens in which I saw life was only through fear and only through trauma. So I contracted shingles and I almost died. Taking a breath with that. I almost died. Six months leading up to that, I felt like I was dying slowly. And then, honestly, it got really bad really quick. And the symptoms I was experiencing were truly nothing I've ever experienced before. It wasn't just that I felt like my entire reality was crumbling. I felt like I was crumbling. I felt like I wasn't in control of my body. And it made me realize that I probably hadn't been for quite some time. And my body was finally kicking into high gear and really trying to protect me. My body's way of trying to protect me was having inflammation and contracting shingles. For me, a lot of the messages that came through, I mean, these were the first few times that I felt like I was truly receiving messages over and over again that were telling me what I needed to do. And that's when my intuition really started to kick in, because that's when I realized that it really was a matter of life and death. So, I kept getting these messages coming through from many different sources saying, when the mind is rejecting what the body is trying to tell it, the skin will reject itself. The skin will reject itself. And depending on the severity of what the mind is in disconnection with the body, yeah, the skin will react in the way that it does. For me, that was shingles, and it was deadly, and it showed up right in the area that my body was trying to tell me that there was something severely wrong, something going on that I really needed to pay attention to. And ever since then, this has been an area that I have continued to have patience and love and forgiveness and compassion towards. Did it start that way? No. I was so angry at my body. I was so upset and frustrated at my body. And through all of these really dark times, I came to realize a lot of truths about myself that weren't so true anymore. And I started to let go of what I thought was me. And in that process, I said goodbye to someone that needed to leave my life for quite some time. And just by doing that, it opened up the door to someone who was going to change my life forever. Did they stay in my life? No, they were a season. They know who they are. And again, I wouldn't change that experience for the world. They quite literally, I still think of it this way. like in Mario Kart when someone like drives by someone and then like I don't know the term for it if there is one, so I'll just say like they boost from them and they just psh. And I felt like we kind of did that for each other in a sense too. We were definitely mirrors to each other, bringing out the best and worst parts of ourselves. And it was definitely a karmic relationship, one that I needed to have, one that showed me all the darkest parts of me and the absolute brightest as well. And I say it with the biggest smile because those are the those are the years that I came back into my body. And I'm so grateful for it. I would never change it because I am glad that I'm here. Now the process of staying in my body and um, wanting to stay in my body and find safe space in it has been a process ever since. Because now I want to stay. Now I want to experience the magic that this world has to offer. And part of that is expressing the magic within me and not letting it all stay in here. And that includes all the darkest parts of myself. So this is why I'm sharing, because lupus changed my life. The story of being diagnosed with a psychiatric condition as well as an autoimmune condition is not one that I'm attached to, because I sense that it's not something that's meant to stay with me forever. The more attachment I have to something, whether it's my childhood or specifically my childhood trauma, the person that I'm supposed to be, or the person that I'm not supposed to be, and all of that, it can, like, those kinds of constructs will continue to keep me in a box that doesn't exist, and I don't want that box to exist. I'm really just meant to share all of these things and to evolve and grow all the time. At the same time, I'm really here and present with not what I should be, but what's here now. Who am I right now? Who am I right now? I'm a woman who was left almost pretty much 2 years ago. And I moved back into my parents' house. Is that something that I feel like I've tried to release shame around? Absolutely. It was like the universe was like, no, but you actually need to come back because this is what you've been running away from for so long. You've been running away from the two people who tried their best and also created some imprints that you now need to acknowledge, feel, and then let go of in your own time. I'm moving through the letting go of now. It took me some time. Longer than I wanted it to. Because what is society have this construct around that an adult can't be living with their parents? That's so pathetic. At the same time, that's in here. That construct doesn't exist. I'm still proud of myself. I've grown so much. I've built my business, and I'm ready. I'm ready to step into it. I'm ready to share with the world that breathwork and finding my breath allowed me to come back into my body after 25 years of dissociating and being out of my body. I want to share my story. I want to let people know, and this will probably be a completely other podcast, but I want people to know that neurodivergency is a superpower. I want people to know that autoimmune diseases are the catalyst for the biggest, most transformative change that you will ever fucking experience if you choose to take the road less traveled. For me, the road less traveled was eventually getting off of all of my medications and finding ways to naturally heal myself. Will that look the same as your journey? No. Although I sense that whatever your journey is, it's not necessarily going to be easy, but guess what? It gets easier, and the rewards and connection and love and clarity that it brings is life-changing. Not just in this life, in others. It's so funny when I share my story, and when I have in the past, it used to be so attached to the actual events. It used to be attached to so many events, and it's interesting because I don't feel like I have to share the actual events anymore. I can share what came out of those events and highlight just, if there are events, highlighting them, There was trauma, there was breakups, there was sickness. So much came out of that. So much inner standing of myself came out of that. And I feel like the reason why I came back to living with my parents was so that I can come back to the root of my pain, to come back to the root cause of everything. And break karmic ties. Find my voice again. Find my strength, my power, my authority, and individuate from them, as well as develop this newfound respect and love outside of the trauma that I experienced, outside of the hurt and the pain, alongside the hurt and the pain. Not running away from it, but facing it head the fuck on. And transmuting it. And letting it be here, letting it be seen. And expressing it. And feeling it. So, that is how lupus has changed my life and how it has propelled me into this journey of self-healing and awakening and self-discovery, and continues to and even without my sickness, because I'm healing myself and it's not going to be here forever. The more I express myself, the more I take care of me. the more I allow myself through. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for seeing me here. And yeah, till next time.